Hello YouTube, this is PensyFan17 and welcome back to the Pennsylvania Railroad Hutchinson Industrial Branch for another speed build. You're going to want to hang around until the end of the video because I'm going to be showing off my reskins of Land Rover's RF16 Baldwin Sharknose diesels, which I just got my hands on. It's my first attempt at a reskin and I think it came out pretty good. I'm really proud of them. Before we jump into the speed build though, I want to go over what I've been working on in this route since the last video. It's been a lot. So here's where we were working last time on this embankment in this part of this downtownish area here. Here's the main part of the route where you're going to be doing most of your switching, the main part of the branch here, the industrial part. And then the branch goes off towards the main here, which runs through the city. And I was debating how I was going to end this, the beginning, how I was going to terminate or originate and terminate the trains that ran on this branch. Was I just going to do a stub-ended track that ended like right here? Or was I going to run into the main and just have the trains sitting on the main and then you run it into the yard, like have a train sitting right here and then just run it right in, or run it into the branch here? And what I decided to do is I just put the whole main here. See, it goes off in the distance back there, and then it goes up through here, and I ended up building a yard to originate and terminate at. It's a pretty good sized yard. It kind of got away from me a little bit. It ended up being a little bigger than I wanted, but I don't know. It's a good solid sized yard for a city, which this is going to be a really big city. So you got a 2-track main originating from the left here and going off to the right. You got this yard where you're going to originate, terminate your local trains for the branch. So you'll start in the yard, you'll run up the line here. Here's another branch just for looks. And then you will go off here into the branch back in to this industrial part of the city and do your switching. So originally, I don't know, I didn't really have a plan originally on what I was going to do. I was just going to kind of see how it went, and this is how it went. Okay, now we're in the speed build part of the video, and you can see here that the yard is lower than the rest of the ground. And the reason I did that is because when a lot of these main lines would run through cities like this, if it was at regular ground level, you'd have so many of these grade crossing with the roads. It's impossible because, man, you would back up traffic for miles doing this if one train goes through. So, in a city like this, the main line needs to be either below the roads or above the roads, or have the roads go over it or something, overpasses, underpasses. And you'll see some of these city scenes where the tracks are depressed like this. They're down in the ground a little bit. And that's what I decided to do. I really like that look. I thought it fit into kind of the how do I say it? The mojo of this route, where you're kind of like in the city, you're kind of submersed in the city. And I felt like that really, I like that effect of having the tracks below the ground level like this. I think it's like 10 meters, which I don't know why the measurements are all in meters. I have this set to imperial. Come on, Trainz, what's the deal? But anyway, so I have the tracks below the ground level, so I will have multiple road bridges going over these tracks, which will be cool. There are a lot of good like rail fanning type opportunities for taking screenshots and stuff. But anyway, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm putting up these retaining walls along the tracks here in this part where they are below which they're not actually lowered. The tracks aren't lowered. It's just I raised the ground. So the tracks are all level on this route. There's not going to be any grade changes on this route. So I'm using these retaining walls here. These assets I found on the DLS, really nice assets. They're relatively new, I can tell, because the thumbnail has Turfex grass in it, which is Trainz 19 exclusive. So these are fairly new assets, and they look pretty good. They got 3D textures and everything. So I put a bunch of these up, lined them up with the track, and then right now I'm straightening certain sections just to make sure they line up with the track good and stuff. Just Just lining up with the track. I wanted to give a little more room so you didn't feel like you're terribly closed in when you're driving a train through here, which this part back here you're probably not going to be driving. You're not really supposed to drive a train on, but I don't know. I feel like I'm just going to be switching cars in this yard half the time just because it's a cool yard, and once I'm done with the scene, it's going to be a cool scene. There's going to be city buildings all around you. You're going to be down in this depressed yard with all these city buildings towering above you. It's going to be a really cool effect when I get done with it. And so I'm probably going to be spending a good deal of time in there. I kind of like the vibe in the yard more than I do in the switching area, but I don't know. That's part of the reason I put that yard in, is because if you're sick of just switching in the switching area, you have something else to do, something else to look at. And, you know, this will be a good place to take screenshots of Pennsy equipment running through the city here. And if you look off in the distance at those mountains that you can see right now, I will be having some more mountainside mainline type scenery back in that area, because that's kind of where it leaves the city. So we'll be able to get some scenes like that, which would be nice. Because I really don't have any routes right now to run my Pennsylvania Railroad equipment, which kind of annoys me, because I want to run Pennsy equipment. I don't really have anything right now that fits. So hopefully this will give me something to run stuff on until I get started on getting, you know, a substantial amount of the Pennsylvania Railroad Central Division done, which is the main point of this channel, really. And is, you know, this route here is going to be good practice for that once I get working on that. Which right now I'm trying to test out stuff for a hump yard. I want to put a hump yard on that route, and I'm having some trouble with it, so I'm trying to figure that all out. So once I do, I'll probably start working on that, and I'll have some videos on that too. But anyway, so right now I'm just putting ballast down in this yard. Very entertaining. Crank the radius up as wide as you can and just putting down ballast. And you see these retaining walls, some of the texture or some of the ground was showing through. And now that I put these PBR ballast textures down, it doesn't, which I think, like, I don't know, it's like all the splines have been programmed to match up with the PBR stuff now and not the old stuff. So in order to get the splines to not have stuff showing through like that, you have to use PBR textures. But this pavement texture that I have, which you see is this other texture that I have all over the place here, I thought that was PBR. It's got PBR in the name, but it's, I don't know. Well, and you know what? See, it's doing it there too, but a lot of it's the grid too. So it's like you have to put down a PBR texture before it works. I don't know. It's weird. The addition of PBR textures has been a blessing and a curse. It's been amazing, the added detail. It just makes everything. It gets rid of that squareness and flatness that you have in Trainz. It makes everything pop so much better. But also, it does not mesh well with all the older assets and other types of stuff, and it has been causing some problems. We'll figure that out, and you can work around it. But all right, right now I'm using a trick, which is very nice. I am putting down textures, and I am clicking or hitting the left square bracket key on my keyboard, and that changes the radius, which it's the radius. The direction thing you can see spinning. It'll spin here in a minute, maybe. No, I'm going to move on. Anyway, it'll change the direction of the texture, so you get rid of these like straight lines in the gravel ballast texture right here. It'll get rid of that. You can use that to kind of mix it up and change that up, which I didn't do it enough to get rid of these lines here, but I'll probably do some more of that. And I'm not doing this 100%, putting the ballast down and stuff. And right now I'm putting trees down, or not trees. I'm using these tree American boxwood assets. I love these things, these bushes. Putting them down all through here just to get some foliage on the side. And I was gonna kind of do this, and I kind of was like, this isn't that entertaining for a video. This is just gonna be putting down a bunch of bushes, and I was going to put some Turfex down, but it wasn't that entertaining, obviously. So you're going to see I'm going to move on to doing something else here in a little bit. A lot of these bushes I'm going to have to move. It's They didn't all get quite where I wanted them. Some of them are too close to the main. Some of them are like in the retaining wall too much. So I'm gonna have to go back and move those. That's gonna be a pain in the neck. That's gonna be tedious, just detailing the whole sides of the retaining walls. It's pretty repetitive. Anyway, you see right now I'm moving on. And you see this building here, this long building here, down in by the yard, is an ice house. I added an ice track for icing reefers. And so up here on the more ground level with the city, I'm making like a, I don't know, ice, I don't know what you do with ice, but like an ice warehouse, factory, distribution center type thingamajig. Just a building to go with this ice house. I'm gonna make a connection for it eventually. I didn't do that in this video, but I'll make it, I don't know, some other time. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do that. I would like to make like an actual brick, you know, like you get these like a walkway, an enclosed walkway from one building to the other. I'd like to do that if I can, but I don't. There's really aren't any assets that work for that, so I might just do like maybe a pipe or two that goes from the one building to the other, just to kind of indicate that they're connected. All right, so right here, I ran into a bit of a problem. These retaining walls are level with the ground, or the top of the retaining wall. If I lowered it, it would get rid of this strange transition right here between the retaining wall surface and the gravel and asphalt. But then I would have like, I don't know, it would drop off eventually and would be probably even worse. So I was at a real loss as to how to smoothen this transition here between this asset and the ground. And I really didn't come up with a solution. I think the best I'm going to be able to do is just put down road splines over it to kind of cover it up. And I plan on having buildings and roads along the edge of this retaining wall for most of it, so that won't be a problem. But right here, with having these trucks and this kind of unloading dock right here, it and this kind of open area for trucks to park, it kind of posed a problem. So you see I got a little creative with it, just park some trucks over the line to kind of disguise it a little bit. I don't think I'm going to be able to disguise it completely. I'm just going to kind of have to write it off as a place where the pavement changes or whatever, and just leave it at that. And you're not going to really notice it. You're going to be down in the yard, and you're just going to see what stuff pops up over the edge of the retaining wall, and you're not going to be looking at the ground as much unless you're looking from overhead. It's not going to be a problem. So there's nothing I can do about it. I'll just leave it that way. If I can come up with a solution, I'll do something about it, but I can't think of anything right now. So yeah, I'm just putting these trucks here, doing this thing. I did this a lot in the other part of the branch. Just putting down trucks at buildings, lining them up with the loading dock. It's tedious, but it's kind of fun to just, I don't know, the trucks kind of add life a little bit. It shows that there's someone there doing something. You know, the businesses are active. They're doing business. There's life. So, and it just gives you something to look at. There's a bunch of, somewhat interesting, colorful trucks parked there by a building. So, I don't know. It's a good effect. So I'm just putting some of these flatbed trucks. I'm using like the same 3 truck assets for all this, and that's fine. The point is not really, I mean, in Trainz, with the limitations you have on assets, the point is not really to have a myriad of different assets you're using. It's more just to have assets there. There's trucks there. It doesn't really matter what trucks they are. It's just that the fact that there's trucks there is the point. So yeah, I mean, this route is going to have like 100 of these black international semis by the time I'm done with it, but that's fine. So right now I'm going full OCD here and trying to get these trucks, these trailers and trucks, ground level. Because as you can see, the tires are sunk into the ground a little bit. And then you see I'm using the new walk camera, which I love it. I love it. This is exclusive to Trainz Platinum Edition and Trainz Plus, if I remember correctly. Which I have the Platinum Edition. I don't have Plus. I probably should get it. Yeah, man, that's a game changer, that walk camera. It's so good for like yard switching, because you can just hop out of your train and walk and throw the switch and stuff like that. So much more realistic. Um, you get a lot better like rail fanning shots. Like if you want to get to a specific spot to see a train go by, it's a lot easier to walk there instead of trying to get your uh, roaming camera to go where you want. Because if you've done trains, you know how annoying that roaming camera is to get it to work the way you want it to when you're trying to get trackside shots and stuff. So the walk camera is a total game changer. And back there, I was trying to use it in Surveyor to get up and close with these trailers to make sure the tires weren't sunk in the ground or floating or anything, and it didn't work as well as I was thinking it might, but I don't know, I'll have to figure out how to do that. But yeah, just going OCD, making sure these trailers aren't floating or sunk in the ground. And now I'm done with that and moving on to putting some more buildings here. So I was kind of like, now what do I do? And I'm like, well, just start putting buildings. A lot of times you can't try to be too creative. You just gotta fill up the space, and that's what I did. Just start putting down buildings. I had a particular asset I wanted. That's why it took me so long to find this particular asset. I don't know why. I get stuck on an asset, and I'm like, this fits, and I gotta use that particular asset. So here we go, trying to make sure they line up. Looks good. So now I'm just thinking like, okay, we got this retaining wall spline and this pavement. How do we fix that? So as you see, I put a road down. Brilliant move. Not really. I don't know. It just broke that line up a little bit, and I will, do something else with that later. But that just kind of, I don't know, just seemed like it needed to be there. All right, so now I'm just putting some more buildings on the other side here. Wasn't really sure what I was going to do at this point with this part of the scene, and it kind of came together at the end, and I actually really like the way it's coming together. It's not totally done, as you'll see, but just putting down buildings. This is a big part of city building. And these are these jointed rail downtown buildings, a must-have. I mean, they're like the only realistic downtown building assets in Trainz right now. There's a few other ones. I was using them back in that other downtown area by the branch, and I forget what they're called, but really the JR ones are really good, and they're kind of more modern times oriented, but they work in transition era like this as well, so I use them heavily here, as you see. But yeah, so this is kind of what I plan to do with this retaining wall most of the time, is have like a road running on it, or have a road nearby and have buildings on it next to that road. So here I'm putting a road down, putting a sidewalk down to kind of, fill up that space so that the road's right not on the edge, not right on the edge of the retaining wall. And as you see, when I have this retaining wall here and the ground drops off underneath the retaining wall. So if I try to put assets on top of the retaining wall, I have to adjust the height on the spline points before then, because otherwise it'll just sink down inside the retaining wall, and I won't be able to see them, obviously. So I have to adjust the height beforehand, which is nice. I have it at a nice even 10 meters height, so I just adjust all the spline points to 10 meters and move them then, but it's going to be kind of annoying to have to do that all the time, but that's the way it is. So now you see I'm just putting down more of these downtown building assets, and you see they look, they look pretty good. Now I'm just kind of going down and getting a track level view, and I'm starting to really like this. It looks good. I like this asset. It's got like a overhang over the sidewalk. Looks cool. I like the effect. Just to break up that kind of monotonous line of houses or buildings, it's something sticking out a little bit. It's cool. So yeah, more buildings. You see there I made a break there for like another road to make another block. More buildings, more buildings. Line them up. I don't get them perfectly straight because a bunch of perfectly straight buildings isn't realistic. Buildings aren't straight in real life. Nothing is perfect in real life, so a little bit of imperfection is realistic. So I wasn't really sure what to do with this space in front of these buildings. I decided to put a road in front of it and just make a really wide sidewalk to kind of fill in the space. As you'll see here, I extend this sidewalk Whoops. Sometimes it's good to put a spline point in the middle of a curve like that, because for some reason when you straighten the other parts, like when I straightened those other parts of the sidewalk, it didn't get that curve perfectly round. It was like, I don't know, more ovalish. So I put an extra spline in there to kind of help that out, and it looks good. But yeah, putting another section of sidewalk in front of that building just to take up that extra space. And then I decided to connect it in here. I don't know, it looks okay. And then this little space in here, I decided needed filled up with some junk. So I decided to put some acids on there, and this ended up being harder than I was hoping. Because with the ground dropping off, if I just plop the acids down there, they're going to be under the retaining wall. I can't see them, so I have to raise them up to the proper height. And the height is based on the ground, so I have to bring them down to the track level here, then raise them up, and then move them up to where I want them here. And since the ground is changing height underneath, it's always different depending on where I put it. So I had to do every one of these manually, as you see here, to get the right height. It's just a pain in the neck. It's annoying that I have to do that, but that's just the way it is. I mean, there's not enough advanced features that you can, like, I don't know. You know, it's they program it one way and it works for most things, but for something like this, it doesn't. Alright, so this is about where I'm done. Next up, check out these cinematics. I'm really proud of these reskins I did. They look really good, so I think you'll enjoy them. Thanks for watching.